Entrepreneurial Journey. We go live here twice a week, interviewing different entrepreneurs and experts on all areas of business. So make sure to join our Facebook group and look out for the events inside your Entrepreneur Resources page. You can find all the links in the description box. Today, I have a very special guest with me. It is Charlene. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Venice, and everyone for being here. I'm happy and thrilled to be a part of this show.
Absolutely. So Charlene Walters is an entrepreneurship coach, business and branding mentor, trainer, and author of Launch Your Inner Entrepreneur. Charlene created a digital entrepreneurship MBA program, which is absolutely incredible. And in this interview, we'll be talking about how you can develop an entrepreneurial mindset to take action, overcome setbacks, manage your time, and boost innovation. I'm super, super excited to chat with you today. But before we dive in, I would love for you to share more about your business and your journey with us. Start wherever you want to.
Sure. So as you know, the path to entrepreneurship is never a straight line. There's a lot of ups and downs and back and forth. I started off in college undergrad as an English major, wasn't even that interested in business at the time. When I graduated, I moved to Miami and I went back to school and got my MBA and eventually my PhD in marketing. I just sort of fell in love with business. I was in a sales position, wanted to learn more. And then from there, I got into higher ed and I was back and forth between higher ed and marketing all the time. And I eventually worked on developing a digital entrepreneurship MBA program. And that program, I got to create our curriculum. I got to work with entrepreneurs and mentor entrepreneurs. And I thought it was so great. I really fell in love with it. And eventually I started a side hustle where I was speaking and I was mentoring part-time, eventually launched off on my own and also wrote a book on entrepreneurship, just bringing together everything that I talked about and I spoke about and I mentored people about so that it would help other entrepreneurs out there. And I concentrated on women because I'm the sole breadwinner for my family. My husband passed away unexpectedly when my kids were young, when they were 2 and 4. So I sort of had to take care of everything. It was a very sad time moving forward. And so I wanted to help other women who might be in a similar situation and are the sole provider for themselves or their families.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear about that. I had no idea, but you're so strong. Like, that is amazing. I would love to hear a little bit more about this MBA program because I don't think I've ever really heard about an entrepreneurship MBA program before.
Yeah, so it was a really great program. We worked with entrepreneurs and helped them do things that it was more practical than a normal program. So they were working on their marketing plans. They were working on their business plans. They were actually they did a podcast episode as one of their homework assignments. So everything they did, they could apply directly to their business. And it was really great because we got to work with people who were interested in business and even those who had already started businesses. So very, very practical. And it was such a pleasure to put that together.
That's so incredible. I love that. I know that we talk about mindset quite a lot nowadays, right? Everyone's like, yes, entrepreneurial mindset. And I think that is a big part of being an entrepreneur, right? You need to be in the right mindset. And I'm sure you talk about it inside your MBA program as well. But would you like to share a little bit more about, what is an entrepreneurial mindset exactly? And why is it so important for us to kind of develop that mindset?
Definitely. So as you know, anything in life is about having the right attitude and that tenacity to keep going forward. So an entrepreneurial mindset is really developing those qualities that are needed to be successful as an entrepreneur. Because as you know, it's lonely, it's challenging, it takes a lot of hard work. So it's getting more comfortable with risk taking. It's getting more comfortable failing and failing fast and moving on and picking yourself back up. It's also getting more comfortable with selling. A lot of us are kind of taught that selling is a bad thing, right? That we're bugging people, we're annoying people, but we really need to have that kind of focus on revenue generating activities to bring our business forward. A lot of times we're seduced by sort of the glamour of entrepreneurship, the sexiness of it, but really it's a lot of hard work. So it's about developing that tenacity to keep moving forward. Also has a lot to do with time management, making goals, sticking with them, and then moving on when something doesn't happen the way you want it to, and being able to get yourself out of a funk if something bad happens or something negative, you fail, something doesn't work out, you lose a client. Just being able to move on and be resilient is crucial to do well in business.
Oh my gosh, you dropped so many bombs right there. I completely agree. And I think that, when someone, myself included actually, in the very beginning, when I thought mindset, that's just, psychological, like who cares, like it's all about action and the physical things and the sexy part of business, like Instagram and TikTok and all of that. But then actually tuning in on yourself and understanding yourself, then, taking actions towards, like what you said, like making like decisions and taking actions towards overcoming your failures and goal setting, time management, all of that is so important. So I 100% agree. Oh my gosh. So I know you talked about risk taking early on. I know it is hard for entrepreneurs, and I know that a lot of people have, they have to feed their families, or maybe they have, like financial commitments and everything. How do you think people should take, like, how do they get out of their shell and take risks, especially in the very beginning of their entrepreneurial journeys?
In the very beginning, it's that giant leap, which is the biggest risk of all, is just jumping into it. So what I recommend a lot of times is that people start as a side hustle. That way it's not as stressful. It's not as risky. They still have some money coming in while they're formulating their business. They're getting that traction going. That's something that I always recommend. And also just being comfortable with the fact that you don't have to be perfect. A lot of times we want to be perfect. We're taught that before we put ourselves front and center, that we have to be exactly the way we're, this wonderful business owner who has it all together. And that's just not the way it goes when you're embarking on something new. So it really depends on building your confidence and just getting more comfortable putting yourself out there and knowing it's okay to fail. I recommend, a lot of women particularly suffer from imposter syndrome. It's that feeling that they don't really belong, that they don't belong with the other entrepreneurs out there, that they've only gotten lucky so far. So do whatever you can to build up your confidence. Maybe make a list of all of your achievements, all the skills, all the things you've done well in your life, and hang it somewhere wherein you're feeling bad. And the more you put yourself out there, the more you'll get comfortable with failing. And it's just about reframing your mindset to look at it not like a failure, but as an opportunity to learn something new.
Yeah, I think especially female entrepreneurs, just like you said, are perfectionists. We want to, get our logos perfect, our website perfect, and be like, no, 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 I can't click that publish button yet because it's not perfect yet. And it honestly will never be perfect. So getting over that mindset block and just putting yourself out there, it can truly, truly help you and just move you forward. So I love that.
It's funny
When
you brought up the website, because I think a lot of times that website never ends. It's just an ongoing thing that from the time you start your business and you keep moving on.
No, for sure. I absolutely agree. I think that also when it comes to developing the entrepreneurial mindset, are there any action steps that you recommend people take, especially in the beginning? Because I know that, it's all about your inner self. Like, how do you kind of move yourself forward in the right direction, especially in the beginning?
So what I recommend is, if you're thinking about launching a business, think about all those skills you have, all your areas of expertise, and what might be of interest to you, what you're passionate about, what you believe in, and then brainstorm about the different businesses that might be a good match. You also have to think about how much time you have to devote to it and what you really want to do and get out of it. Then start looking at all that and identify a few businesses and look at the competition already on the market and see where you might fill an unmet need or a hole in the market. And then look at the target audience and how they might use it, and just sort of gauge interest, because it can sound like a wonderful idea to you, to me, but if nobody else likes it, then you're not selling anything. So you have to do all that kind of homework up front, and then just find out as much as you can about your target audience, survey them, see how much they're willing to pay. You can even create an MVP, which could be as simple as a teaser page, which talks about your product or service just to gauge interest. So the more you do all that kind of homework up front, the easier your launch will go, and the more you'll be informed about your decision for your business moving forward.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make. It's just like, okay, I think this is a good idea. I'm just going to go out there and do it. But then you realize, after spending lots of time and money and energy into the business idea that you have, that no one is going to buy it. I've been there. So I needed to hear this. So for anyone that's listening right now, like, please, like, really take this in and make sure that you validate your business before even jumping in, right? I think that's super important.
Yes. And also I see a lot of times new entrepreneurs, they get sort of overwhelmed. They've got like 20 different goals. They want to do so many different things. So sometimes it's hard to streamline all that and to organize it so that you can take little micro steps moving forward. So it's a good idea to run it past somebody, whether it's a mentor or someone else you know, just to kind of get feedback and kind of streamline all of those goals. It's not that you can't have 15 goals, but you want to concentrate on maybe 3 or 4 to start off with.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, yes. Speaking of which, let's have a chat about time management and goal setting, because I know that those, again, don't seem so sexy, but then they're so crucial to your business. So yeah, any tips that you'd like to share with us about, time management and goal setting?
Sure. So time management is a biggie. You want to be productive and you don't want to waste your time because that business is your baby. It can get overwhelming and you can devote all your time and then get burnt out early. So I always suggest maybe dedicating a certain hours of a day to your business. Maybe it's 8 to 5, 8 to 6. Then you have some time for your family or whatever else is important to you later on in the evening. And I know it won't be perfect. It won't be every day you'll stay in that 8 to 6, but at least it's a goal. And then if something comes up, you can adjust to it. But it's important to kind of differentiate, especially now during the pandemic when we're home and we could just spend 24/7 working at our computers because we're not going out as much. It's important to have that time off away from your business because you need to be well rested. You need to take care of yourself. You need to focus on other areas of your life, and that will make you better at your business. As counterintuitive as it might seem initially. And then when you are working, I always suggest maybe setting it up so that you have 2 to 3 major goals you want to accomplish every day, and then blocking out some time on your calendar. Turn off your email notifications. If you're like me, that phone is a major distraction with all the notifications. Put it across the room for a little while, and you'll actually get done more in less time if you're just focusing on getting 2 to 3 major things done every day.
And do you use any kind of planner, digital planner to help plan your day?
I do my calendar, and sometimes I'll old school print something out. I don't have a fancy program, and I'm sure you have a good recommendation for that I use right now. But I think the more you can have in place, you can set up notifications, check in on yourself, maybe at the start of the week and at the end of the day, and then plan for the next day. The more you're doing that, and the more you have tools to help you with that, the better off you'll be.
100%. I think also coming back to your previous point about being overwhelmed, like I know there's so many planners and so many tools and so many software out there that can help you plan better and also, remind you a million times throughout the day. But I think especially in the beginning, it's so important to just simplify everything. If you've got a paper planner, just use that. If you've got Google Calendar, which is actually what I use, I just time block. I just time block with Google Calendar, and it's just like, okay, so these are the things I'm going to do. And just know that it's okay not to finish everything in that day because emergencies happen, right? It's okay to be flexible.
It is. And you can also too, if you see like some weeks are super busy and jam-packed, if I see something like that coming up on my calendar, I'll work ahead and try to get as much done ahead of time as I can so that in case a bunch of stuff comes up last minute on that already busy week, that I'm sort of ahead of the game already. And it's just getting really smart about looking at both the day-to-day and then the big picture and just shifting things around. And like you said, if you don't finish that day, it's okay. Add it to the next day. If you do finish early, look at your major task lists that you have and add something else on so that you can make the best use of that day.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm just I'm just very curious about your routine. Do you, like you said, you set like 8 to 6 or something like that, but how do you kind of stop yourself? I know it's so hard because for me, I'm in front of my computer 24/7, which is probably terrible. How do you stop yourself from, checking that email, going on Instagram and, just being in tune and stay, physically present when you're with your family or your friends or whoever you want to spend your downtime with?
So I actually leave the phone in a different room, although it kind of stresses me out sometimes, but that's the best way because we're just so programmed to naturally check that phone all the time. And it can be stressful in itself. You're looking constantly at the different things going on. So just keeping it away from me for a little while is something I do. If I'm busy working, I'll try to place it a little bit away from me so I'm less tempted to look at it. And I think that's, for me, that's what works, is that physical distance. And I think, if we're have a break, like if we have a goal, we want something to do, that helps too. Maybe we are working out every day, so we have that little schedule, and maybe that's our stopping point. Okay, it's time to work out or do whatever, and make that your differentiation between business and evening. And I know it's hard, and we can be flexible too as entrepreneurs, which is one of the beautiful things about entrepreneurship, is having that flexible schedule. So I know even for me, sometimes, like if I have a lot of writing or a lot of things that I need to do and I'm just not in the right mindset, I'll go and just take a little bit of time off. If I don't have any pressing meetings, I'll do something else. And then I'll come back to it when I feel I'm more able to concentrate, or that I'm in a better mood for it. So we can do that too. It doesn't have to be set in stone. We can also judge by what's going on around us. Maybe we have another obligation with a friend or family member, and we can work that into our schedule too. That's the beauty of entrepreneurship.
Yes, I actually want to kind of emphasize on your point that it's okay, just because you set your day to be working on these specific tasks, but if you're not in the right mindset, if you're not feeling like you're in it, then there's no point forcing yourself to do it. I feel like that's I'm so guilty of everything I'm saying right now, but I've done that so many times where I'm like, okay, so today I have to finish a chapter of my book, or I have to, do all the, if it's meetings, I understand you can't just be like, hey, never mind, I'm not in the mood for it, I don't want to do this anymore. but at the end of the day, if you give yourself those tasks and you're really not in the right mindset for it, or you're not feeling well, why force yourself to do it? You should just take a step back and be like, okay, so your body, your mind is the most important. So come back and focus and hone in on yourself before you can even go and spend the whole day typing away and sitting in front of the computer, right?
Because it'll take you longer if you're not in the right mood for it. So if you just reset, come back to it. And even if something happens, you have a setback, a failure, a rejection, whatever it is, and this happens to me too. I'm not saying you can't feel sad about it. You absolutely have every right to feel sad. You have every right to be upset, but just find a way to get yourself out. And that often means taking a break. And like you said, of course, if I have a meeting or if I have an event or if I have something scheduled, I will definitely do that no matter what. But if I have a free afternoon and there's a break, I'll say, okay, I'll get through this next meeting. I'm giving myself a break because I'm not in the right attitude right now and I need to reset. And that's important to know. And again, we're making our own schedule. We can do that. We can come back later when we're feeling better about it.
Mm-hmm. And don't be guilty. I feel like that's the issue. You have so much guilt if you don't follow up and finish that task that you assigned for yourself for the day. You feel so guilty. Don't be. It's okay. We're only human, right?
Let yourself off of the hook. And a part of that too is learning to say no to people. A lot of time, particularly as women, we feel like we have to say yes to everything. We have to do everything. And that's not possible. Eventually we have to pick and choose. So a rule of thumb that I use, if it doesn't mean anything to me personally or move me towards my goal, or it's not important involving someone that's important to me or something that's special to me, I don't do it. And I don't feel guilty about it, because you can't say yes to everything. You just can't.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I completely agree. Okay, let's talk about goal setting a little bit, because I think we touched on that a little bit earlier on. But do you have any tips or any kind of action steps that you have for us regarding goal setting?
Yes, so you should have a master list of your goals, like a big list and then a smaller kind of day-to-day list of goals that you want, and then the micro steps that it'll take to make them happen. And there's some things that you won't get to right away. You can have some kind of place on your laptop or wherever, a document where you store everything. But I think it's important to write it all down and to have some kind of steps to make it happen, because we can have all of these goals, but if we don't really start focusing on the nitty gritty. So it's a good idea sometimes to tackle the boring part of that goal first. Like if it's a big goal, something's holding us back, that boring, I call it tackle the meh first. Just get that boring thing out of the way, get it done, and you'll start going quicker. And just sort of break it down, give yourself a timeline, and then you can set reminders on your calendar so that you're checking in with yourself. And again, we have so many goals. It's helpful just to concentrate on 2 or 3 big ones at a time and then work towards them. And once you hit them, go on to the next. And something else I like to really do is keep a journal of everything that's going on. because as entrepreneurs, we feel like we're just sitting still, right? Nothing is happening. We're not getting anywhere when really we're doing a lot. And so if we flip back through our journal and we really look, it's amazing the progress we've made. Well, I'll do it and I'll say, oh my gosh, a couple months ago, this is what I was worried about. I'm so far past that now, and you'll be surprised. So it's important to keep track of it, journal it if you can, and then go back to your master list. And sort of there's nothing more satisfying than crossing something off, whether it's digitally or whether you have a pen and paper or whatever method you're using.
No, I 100% agree. I think that crossing out things part, I'm like, yes, I did that. Yes, like that's out of the way. Also love that tip about journaling and kind of looking back on, say, like even just like a few days ago, a few weeks ago, just seeing where you were and then where you are right now. Because like you said, as entrepreneurs, you have like a never-ending amount of tasks on your plate, and it's so easy to get distracted with what's to come rather than what you've done. And we need to kind of appreciate ourselves a little bit more, right? Like we should celebrate the wins that we've made and, like appreciate where we've come. I think,
That's
like back
yourself. Yes.
Like back in, like, for example, university or like high school, whenever you finish an exam, you're like, yay, like I've got this exam out of the way. Like, I can like go celebrate and have a nice dinner. But then nowadays, like we tick something off, we're like, okay, move on to the next thing, right?
It's important to take that time and not to be, like you said, so hard on yourself. A lot of times I'll finish a day and I'll say, gosh, I don't feel like I've accomplished anything. And then I start listing off the things I've done, and it's a million things. So I think we have high expectations and we do have to stop and celebrate. And I also suggest, like, if you have some kind of big event, maybe you have a big pitch, or maybe you have a new client meeting or something, maybe you're interviewing for a job, whatever it is, plan an outing. Now it's virtual, but either way, so you can celebrate if it was a success, but you have someone to commiserate with. And that way you're celebrating successes and failure and celebrating your progress, what you've learned.
Love that. Thank you for that. I do want to ask you to kind of talk to us a little bit more about selling, because I know this is such a sensitive topic. And just like what you said before, a lot of people are very scared and nervous because we're taught to, like not really sell because that's pushy, right? So any kind of tips that you have for us regarding, the mindset around selling?
Yes, so it can be helpful to think of yourself as being helpful. You have a product, a message, a service that is important, and the message that needs to be heard, and that you're actually helping people out there. You're not bothering them, you're not bugging them. So it's reframing it that way and really approaching it and how you can sell. If you're going into a pitching situation, it's helpful to practice beforehand. Maybe you just record yourself on Zoom. Maybe you call a friend, have a glass of wine, you talk it over, practice it out beforehand. So that's really helpful. And just slowly you'll change that mindset. I was fortunate that the first job I had out of college was a sales job, and that taught me so much that I can use moving on. And I've always really enjoyed working with people in terms of sales. So building that rapport is important. Get to know people. And don't be all about just a sale or closing a deal. It has to be about a long-term relationship with somebody, with another company, with another person. So do those things you can to build rapport, and then it won't be as scary trying to make that pitch, trying to make that sale eventually.
Like coming from the place of service, right? Like you want to be helping people. Like obviously, if you are trying to sell like a baby, like, I don't know, a grandma diaper, like that's not going to work, like because you're not helping them. But then make sure that you're talking to the right people and come from a place of helping them instead of being like, oh, like look at my product, it's going to work for you.
Yeah, you can't be all about closing the deal. And if you're really passionate about your business, like we talked about, and you're into something you really love, then it won't be a hard sell for you. You'll be excited. You'll want the person to benefit from your product or service for sure.
Definitely. And I do want to ask you quickly about outsourcing, because I know that that's another big part where mindset comes in. Like, when it comes to outsourcing, people need to outsource. When you grow, if you want to grow, basically, you have to kind of either get a VA, get a virtual assistant, get someone to help you with your designs and things like that. But it's so hard to let go sometimes, right? Because you've got this business that you've been building since it was like non-existent. Do you have any tips on mindset around outsourcing for us?
Definitely. So look at your schedule critically, look at all the tasks you do, look at those things that you don't enjoy that are sucking up a lot of time and aren't giving you much in return, and then start trying to outsource or delegate them. Find other people to do it. It's an important step. It seems difficult, but you'll be surprised at how much it'll free you up to do the more important tasks that you really need to do to move your business forward. So it's definitely life-changing when you get to that position where you can actually outsource something, and it's not that far into it. And sometimes, like, we want to do our own graphics, we want to do our own website, we want to do our own everything. We have to look at our budget and kind of balance between bootstrapping, doing as much as we can by ourselves, right? Because we want to do that in the beginning. And then eventually, what can we just not do? Or what do we need to eventually outsource? And that takes a little bit of adjustment. I always recommend in the beginning, don't go crazy spending until you're really getting some money in return. But then as you start to build, give yourself a goal, and then you can start outsourcing more and more as time goes on.
I actually really agree with that point. I see a lot of entrepreneurs out there saying, "Oh yeah, quit your job right now. Just like put all your savings and like even get loans to start this business." And I'm like, but you never know, right? Like just because the same business model, the same like journey worked for someone else doesn't mean that it will necessarily work for you. So it's always good to kind of like take things one step at a time instead of just diving into the deep end.
I think so too. I think a lot of times we are into this notion of we have to get all this money, we have to get all these investors, and that's not necessarily the case for many businesses. Of course, you'll reach a point eventually where you might need to, where you want to grow and expand, but you don't have to. Like, I've talked to many entrepreneurs too who think that they absolutely have to get all these investors right off the bat, and it's not until you're further along really that comes into play.
And we're lucky enough nowadays that it's actually not as costly to start a business. You can use social media, organic reach, and, search and everything. And there are many different tools. It might be slower than, using paid advertising, but at the same time, we have so many options these days. So like we can just take a course, instead of having to, I don't know, like spend thousands and $10,000 into like a tool or something like that. So it's very important to kind of prioritize and know where you need to spend your money, your time, and your energy.
Yeah, start off slow, and when in doubt, just don't spend at first until you really need to. And like you said, taking courses, using those resources, it's so important to utilize everything you have, because we can learn so much from other people, other experts out there. We can learn something from everybody we interact with. So take advantage of that for sure.
Love that. Love that. I feel I can talk to you forever, but I do have to start wrapping up, unfortunately. But would you like to share with us the free gift that you have for your Entrepreneur Resources audience?
So definitely, I have an opportunity. If anybody's interested in getting any mentoring, any coaching, you want to get some advice about your business moving forward, on my website, which is charlenewalters.com, I have a 30-minute free consultation, which you can book, can spend some time with me. I would love it. It would be great to talk things through, and I would be thrilled to point you in the right direction with your business. If you want to find out more about my book, Launch Your Inner Entrepreneur, you can find out at launchyyourinnerentrepreneur.com, and it's available on Amazon and everywhere books are sold. So those are two things that you can look into. And you can find me, of course, on social media. I'm either Charlene Walters, PhD, or C. Walters, PhD, on everything: Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Clubhouse, all over. I'm there. So I'm happy to connect too.
Yay! I am super, super grateful that you came onto the show and chatted with us today. I feel like Charlene is incredible. We've talked so much in the past. We've done Clubhouse together. Just, oh my gosh, so much. Let's do more Clubhouse together for sure. I feel like there's so much to share.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on today. It was a blast.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again for being your Entrepreneur Resources show. For those of you that missed some of the tips and strategies, you can check our show notes. You can find the link in the description box. And we have our live interviews here with experts twice a week. So make sure to stay tuned and join our community on Facebook. Thank you so much again for being here. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I'll chat with you very soon, and have a great rest of your day.